We're back here on the platform, and we're speaking with Mr. Dionisio Diaguila. You know, Mr. Diaguila, every time we talk about taxes, we cannot forget that there are some people who wanted the gaming industry to be taxed, or should I say, the illegal gaming industry to be taxed. Bahamians voted against that, the regulation and the taxation of web shops in the Bahamas. The government can't win, eh?
Let me tell you something. That referendum was the biggest disaster that ever was. First of all, you did not get a majority of Bahamians to vote. And as a businessman, I resent the fact that you haven't addressed that issue and started to tax those people as you should have done from day one. There's no way, let's be realistic, that they are going to stamp that out. And they know it, and that's why they haven't done it. They're not going to stamp it out. It is here to stay. So let's get over this confusion that we have, and let's start to tax it. Every other country, this is an example, every other country in the world got this. There's nothing wrong with it. Let's tax it. Let's start to tax it. You want me as a businessman to start to pay tax when there's this big, fat, golden section of your economy sitting there that you're dithering over about what to do. It needs to be taxed. Let's get over this and deal with this.
But if the government is to listen to various sectors of the country, the government wouldn't do anything.
Okay, those sectors.
The government got to lead, right?
No, those sectors of the economy, those sectors of our community that are against it. I mean, I live here. I drive through these neighborhoods every day when I go around to my superwashers. Do you honestly believe that the government of the Bahamas is going to stop out the number business? Come on, where do you live? It is here to stay. What are we going to do? We already got an out-of-control crime rate. Murders and armed robberies and rapes and all that other stuff. And you can tell me now you want the government of the Bahamas to take its very scarce police resources and start to shut down a business that you aren't able to shut down. Technology has taken you over. You could go onto your iPad in Superwash and log onto my internet and you can play numbers. And you can go around and put the money in the man shop and put it on the account and put it on your account and do it. This is like prohibition in the 1920s. You cannot stamp it out. And it isn't, people say, well, drugs is the same too, right? Why don't you legalize drugs? Well, in some states, the United States, they have. I mean, marijuana in Colorado. But, okay, we're not there yet. Let's see what we can raise from this business. This is not, doesn't harm your disposition. Let's tax it. I mean, the people go over the bridge and gamble, and we sit right there, man, yeah, let them do that. That's the white people, they come. Let them go over the bridge and waste their money. It's just mind-boggling to me that we are having this discussion. That is 30, 40, I don't know what the number is. You get anywhere from 20 to $100 million sitting on the table. I don't know what the number is, but I'm sure it's a big number. So before you even start talking value-added tax, address that issue. But they're scared. They're scared to do it. I mean, they should have just done it from day one. There would have been that initial pushback. That would have been fine. And when the 40 million come in and the government could deal with helping people with social services and helping people with here and helping there and addressing our debt issue,
There's a fallout no matter what happens.
Yeah, no. I mean, even if they introduce VAT, right?
There's a fallout.
Yeah, there's a fallout. I'm not going to be happy, but...
Right.
Okay, they're taxing me. They're taxing me.
Right.
Okay?
So there should be the imposition of taxes.
Yes.
And rather than asking people whether or not they should be taxed, just do it, right?
There's certain things they need to do, okay? There's certain things. But my point is this, and the difference between that tax and VAT, people say, well, let's apply the same theory to VAT. Let's just let the government impose it. The reason why I say in that particular instance that caution needs to be held and well thought out, and let me think this through, and let me introduce it properly.
Because of the impact on the economy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So if you don't roll it out right, and why did it fail in Grenada? Why did it fail in Grenada? It was rushed. The people who were supposed to collect the tax weren't properly trained, and it turned into a disaster. The economy tanked, absolutely tanked, to the point where the government said, okay, we got to pull this back out. This was not well thought out. The people weren't trained on how to collect it, and it was a complete disaster. Revenues went down instead of up. and it was a disaster. The government had to retract it. Now, that is our point. Government of the Bahamas, before you put this value-added tax in place, make sure you think this through. Do not destroy our economy trying to collect an extra $2, because the $2 you think you can collect, it actually could lose you $5.
Yeah. Now, in the hotel industry, it makes sense to have some tax.
Yeah.
You're dealing with several million tourists coming to the Bahamas, and the government says that is extended to that industry as well. It makes sense, doesn't it?
One might
and these people who are coming, paying the tax in the hotels, by and large, they are used to pay this kind of tax wherever they're from, whether it's the United States or Europe.
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. The only thing that you must do is be mindful of the fact that when I'm thinking of my vacation, I'm living in New York, I'm thinking, do I go to Cancun? Do I come to the Bahamas? Do I go to other destinations within the United States? And what is the cost of a vacation in the Bahamas? Now, I think most tourists who come out of North America or Europe, like think of the Bahamas, okay, this is a very special place. It's beautiful, it's got this sun, sand, and sea, it's got this nostalgic view about it. Yeah, I'm prepared to pay a little bit more.
Right.
I'm prepared to pay a little bit more. But you gotta be careful. You don't want to price yourself out of the market.
But $10 each, $10 a head?
Well, if you go, no. If you go in 10% and your room is $700 a night, that's $70. But you know, when you $700 a night, you could probably afford another $70. But you know, I'm sure the hoteliers. Let me tell you something, Jones. If you go to a hotelier and say, do you mind if I put a 10% tax on your business? The first thing you say is no, because that's just normal human reaction, right? But then he's going to say, man, you got to be careful, man. You don't want to kill the goose that's laying the golden egg. So this is where a government has to be mindful of these things. It's a difficult decision. I don't know what the right decision is because I ain't in government. But you got to be mindful of these things. Got to be. You also got to be careful. You're introducing all these taxes, and I get back to my original story is, well, you can't collect the ones you got.
Yeah.
So figure that out.
We talked about efficiency in running the government of the Bahamas, and you hear it all the time. There are a whole lot of people who are not satisfied that we run a well-oiled machine. That we run a government that is efficient, not in terms of tax collection, but in terms of services.
There is no doubt that there are sectors of the economy or sectors of the government bureaucracy that are wholly inefficient. Mm-hmm. Now, and I'll give you an example. And this has always been my pet peeve from the day I've been president of the Chamber of Commerce and now. Mm-hmm. You apply for a work permit. I need a work permit. I've checked, I've looked, there's no one here, and I need to hire a non-Bahamian to fill a position. And I go out and I recruit that non-Bahamian, and I tell him, I said, I've got you a job, thank you, I've given you an offer, you've accepted. The first question you ask as that non-Bahamian is, when can I start? And I go, well, I really don't know. I got to apply for a permit, and I know how long that could take. My point is this. The government of the Bahamas needs to impose on its bureaucracy certain deadlines. If a person comes, let's take a work permit. If a person applies for a work permit, you give them an answer, yes or no in 20 days. Do it in 20 days. And you drive efficiency that way. When you say, man, we can let you know when it's ready, of course it's going to be inefficient. But you have to set deadlines on your bureaucracy where the consumer can measure it. If I go for a passport, if the government said passports will be ready in 3 days, and it's not, then I'm upset. But you drive efficiency by setting deadlines, and Bahamians hate that. I mind it ready when it's ready. Come back in 6 weeks. What do you mean 6 weeks to do a passport? What are you, nuts? What would take so long? Oh, man, we got to take a break and blah, 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 blah. It's just like, it's ridiculous, and our politicians condone it.
Mr. Dionisio, I have a friend who went to the Treasury to pay real property tax, wherever, Treasury, Ministry of Finance. And he was paying tax, his real property tax, for years on this property. He was told that we cannot find the number in the system. Man had the check in his hand. we cannot accept your check because we cannot find your number in the system. So he goes back and he calls again and he says, but I want to pay my taxes. What happens in this case?
There are, I'm sure, many war stories like that. I, for example, when I dealt with my national insurance, I'm pretty slow at the paperwork, but I had a general number in my head of what it is. So I would go at the beginning of the year and I say, look, let me pay for the first 6 months. I think it'd be $60,000. Let me give you a check for $60,000 now, so I know I ain't gonna have no problem with yours. No, you can't do that. You have to wait till the end of the month, and then you got to work it out, and then you got to send me a check. Or take property tax. Property tax is one property I have. The property tax on is $25,000 a year. Now me, if I was them, I would say, you got to pay it off. You got to pay it over the course of a year. Don't wait till you get to the end of the year and then the person got to find the 25. Of course he can't find it. He doesn't spend it. But if he got to pay, you know, what is it, $6,000 every quarter, or, you know, or whatever it is every month, set up a bank account where you could direct transfer the money out every month. They can't deal with that.
Well, you can still accept the check every month.
But you know, I mean, come on, who deal with check now? This is the 21st century. Set up direct debits. Here's your account number. Here's the stuff you got to put on the stuff. Every month, transfer over. That's a requirement. You got to pay it every month. And we need it by direct transfer. We don't accept checks anymore. You got to pay by direct transfer. And you got to put an account and transfer it over.
Yeah, but this is the Bahamas. You have many places where people need to go in to pay.
Yeah, but drive
no. Yes.
Yeah, you're talking about efficiency, right?
Yes.
Drive the efficiency. I mean, I write a check and I send my woman down. She stand in line and she do it because I want a piece of paper to say it get paid. But, you know, I went to them. I said, well, why don't you all set up, you know, every month you transfer it over. And I'm sure there are people on TV land say, boy, Diaghilev, you know, he's rich and that's how he do things and we ain't doing it that way. We got to go down and pay cash and this and that and all that. But, you know, this is how you drive efficiency. This is how you get people to comply. We're maybe a little against it to begin with, but it's like, here it goes. You transfer the money in, and it comes in over the month, and it would help people to comply. Even if national insurance. If you say your national insurance is $60,000 a year, or $100,000 a year, or $120,000 a year, send me 10 a month, and we'll settle up at the end of the year. You know, you just send me 10, send in your paperwork, but just send me 10 at the end of the year, and then next year we'll set the number for next year. But you just, you know, you drive, you make it as easy as possible for your people to pay. Right now it's difficult.
Yeah, and could it be that the government has or is running these deficits because of the high level of inefficiency in the system?
Absolutely. I mean, it's just, you know, how do you get people, you want to help your population to comply.
It is said by some people that we have a rich country, but a poor government, meaning that a lot of money is turned over. The GDP is pretty decent.
The problem with our government,
the domestic product is high.
The problem,
but we have a bad government, a poor government.
The problem of the government is that it is run by people who are concerned about their re-election. So they don't do what they have to do, what that is in the best interest of the country. They do what's in their best interest. Now, if you have to be hard on your people, do this, do that, do this. If you don't do that, we can punish you. And you ain't gonna get reelected, so you gotta coach and cajole and, you know, property tax. In the States, man, every year they revalue your property. If you don't pay, they put a lien on after 15 days, and by the time 60 days go by, it's done up for sale. They're hard. And sometimes you have to get people to comply. And you have to be consequences if you don't comply.
But you wouldn't try that in the Bahamas. You would never be
Oh, yeah,
reelected.
you rich and you throw the poor woman on the road and blah, 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 and all the rest of it. But it would send a message that, you know what? The government ain't playing. So now you got to pay. When you hear that, the government ain't playing, that's what you got to do. I mean, there are some people, sometimes there are genuine mistakes, or, you know, you don't want to be, you know, there's obviously a human factor that comes into it. But this is, you know, take BEC, for example. People don't pay their light bills, right? What part of the government worked really, really, really well? Phones, right? Why did the phone system work really well? I mean, why did, you know, that company work very well? Because everything was prepaid. 80, 90% of BTC's bills are prepaid. People would not pay their light bill to get minutes on their phone. You learn something from that. Put BEC on prepaid meters. People go to the gas station and buy a kilowatt card. They type in the code in their meter. Now it's prepaid. You don't have to have accounts receivable. You don't have to have bills. You don't have to have meter connectors, disconnectors. You're changing the business model to cause people to focus on you want light or you want phone. You want phone, put minutes on your phone. You want light, put kilowatt hours on your meter. And these are the sort of efficiencies that you drive. You running around now still trying to get people to pay their light, but they ain't gonna pay it. They can pay the guy $50 to keep the meter on or do whatever you got to do. What kind of skullduggery goes on? Because you haven't figured out how to make the business model much more efficient. People don't, when you have to bill and collect, it's inefficient. Figure out how you get your money up front, like Superwash, before you deliver the service. And if you don't deliver the service, then people won't buy your service.
If you want to wash, you pay.
Thank you.
You pay up front.
You imagine now I say, yeah, go turn on your washers. We'll turn on your washers and you wash and come pay when you're ready. Oh, for God's sake, everybody run out the door. So you've got to figure out a business model that's much more. I've been driving home this. I like Leslie Miller, right? I think he's done a. He's good, right? He's good. He's driving home and trying to improve. But the bottom line is, if people ain't gonna pay, you ain't wasting your time. You got to get the people to pay the light bill. And you've got to focus. You've got to get people to make those decisions. Man, the light bill, first of all, they ain't cut off my light until they get to $750. And then what happens is it goes up to $2,000. And then they get cut off and they can never get back on because they can't get the $2,000 to get back on. Could you imagine now if you say, okay, I have $100 a week for light. Let me put that on Monday. And that goes from Monday to Friday, and all of a sudden I run out of power. Well, what do I have to do in my home to make it last till Saturday? What efficiencies do I have to do? Drive home energy conservation.
You on BEC's board. Why didn't you come up with this suggestion? You on the board?
No.
Weren't you on the board?
No. The suggestion was there.
Okay.
And then they always say there's 1 or 2 steps you have to do before you get there. Yeah. And then on top of that, it's a political decision.
And you have to convince the politicians.
It's a political decision because you've got to spend $20 or $30 million changing all the meters out, whatever the number is. And then, they're like, well, I don't want to pay my bill up front. You got to deal with that, the political fallout. Oh, the population can be upset. Do you start in the poor neighborhoods, the rich neighborhoods? There's all the politics to deal with it. But if it's a straight business decision, it's an easy one for me.
People are talking about paying for garbage collection, for instance. That itself is resisted by a whole lot of people.
Actually, as a matter of fact, I was in Miami yesterday. And I was driving down the road, and I was driving through a neighborhood, and it was garbage collection day. And I said to the person who was with me, my colleague from Superwash, I said, see, look at that? See how they got the people to comply? Everybody bought the same garbage container. Everybody at the appointed hour puts it on the street. If you want your garbage collected, you got to put it in this container and get it on the street at this time. That's the way it's got to be. No, we don't do that. Put it out whenever you want. We come around when we reach. You can leave it in any type of container. We got to get humans to lift it. And and you watch the truck come down and hook onto the cable, bop, throws it in, goes on to the next 4, bop, lays it down. Anywhere else, that's if you want to move in that direction, that's where you got to go. And that's how you improve efficiencies.
Mr. Dionisio, you're a good man. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. And it's an education sometimes when we speak to you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you for watching and listening to our program. Good evening, everyone.